Folks, welcome to So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Thursday episode. How the heck is everybody doing? Are you hanging in there? Wild week. Listen, Salt Lake City, I was unhinged. Yeah, I was unhinged. I hope you enjoyed it. Some of you probably still have not listened to it, but that's the great thing about podcasts. It's here until the end of time, potentially, unless the computers take over and just destroy all of us. But listen to it whenever. I had such a fun time doing it. And I was thinking today that I'm just so excited to be doing this show. You know, like the whole thing is like, it's really at the end of the day, podcasting. I mean, this is the best work I've ever done. I don't mean this is the best, like, oh my God, I'm a top tier podcaster. I just mean this is the best job I've ever had. And so even when I'm talking about something I don't like, it's still pretty great. But talking about something that you do like, it's really fantastic, and I want to spend as much time doing it. So it was a joy, and I just got excited today, thinking like, oh my God, I get 17 more attempts to work with these women and to talk about this show and to see what they have in store for us. Because I was thinking about the insanity of last season. And where was the trip that Bronwyn took him on? I forgot the place, and all the husbands came out and they played that sexy game. Like, I was just laughing about certain scenes, and I can't wait for Lisa Barlow to come back. I did read some things today. Is there a chance that Lisa Barlow made producers upset or was there, because the more you think about it, it really is weird that she was not there. And I even went to Twitter, which I don't do a lot anymore, but I thought Lisa Barlow might have tweeted throughout the episode, because last season she would tweet through the entire episode and she would interact with people, and she didn't even tweet, which, it's like she really wasn't in the episode, but I thought she would still participate or kind of defend or even point out that her name was brought up 45 times in the episode, and there was just nothing. And I worried, man. Like I said, Lisa, I usually never agree with what Lisa Barlow says or does, but my God, she is one of the most fun people to watch on Bravo. Like, it shocks me that she is an actual person. I love her so much. Anywho, it's just me and you today. We're gonna do pop culture stories. We're gonna talk about the news, and then we'll get out of here, and then Friday we'll do the OC recap. I watched the OC episode today. I gotta tell you, it is very weird that Katie is not in this episode again. But I will say the episode has some interesting things, and especially Heather Dubrow. There were a couple of things that were talked about in regards to her and her family, not her kids or anything like that, but like her dad, that I found so fascinating. And it kind of made me look at Heather in a different way. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But like the Shannon and Tamra stuff, it's like it's nuclear in this episode. I don't know, folks. It feels like Shannon and Tamra are going to fight until the end of days, and maybe that's what we expect for them. But conflict resolution. We're all looking for conflict and hopefully resolution. Now, I just was watching one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm going on this podcast. I think it's called Raiders of the Lost Podcast, which is like a really fun movie podcast. I really dig their work, and they invited me on to talk about one of my favorite films, Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights by Paul Thomas Anderson. And his new movie comes out next Friday. It's called One Battle After Another, with DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro. Who else is in it? It's a star-studded cast, and I'm hearing it's an amazing film. But Boogie Nights was his second film. His first film was this film called Hard Eight, with Gwyneth Paltrow, John C. Reilly, and I believe Philip Baker Hall. And Philip Baker Hall has like a small part in Boogie Nights. But Boogie Nights, I remember seeing it in a movie theater. I think it was at Camel View by Fashion Square Mall in Scottsdale, Arizona, when it came out. And I think it came out, was it like 96, 97? I think it was like 1997. I don't know. But I just remember thinking like, oh my God, I have not really seen anything like this. I mean, I was a kid too. But it just blew me away. And it's the story of this guy, this kid, Dirk Diggler. Is his name Dirk Diggler, and he has a very large penis. He's a gift. He has like a big beautiful unit, and he meets Jack Horner, who is played beautifully by Burt Reynolds of all people. Like Burt Reynolds, I was just like, holy shit! I was like, my mom would watch like Evening Shade on CBS, if you remember that sitcom. And Burt Reynolds like was a huge star in film in the 70s and then kind of went to TV and, did his own thing. But this was like a real part. And he meets up with Jack Horner, who is a porn movie producer. And he's like, I hear you got something special in your pants. Because he's like a busser at the club that they go to in the very beginning. And Jack Horner's girl is played by Julianne Moore, the fantastic actress. But Jack Horner has this kind of little porn family with like Heather Graham, who plays Roller Girl, John C. Reilly, Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Scotty, who is always just like hanging around. It's just filled with fantastic actors. And the thing is, when you say porn or when you say, like you're like, ooh, sometimes some people get a little squeamish, right? And this really just shows you, it's like they're everyday people, man. They've made their own like kind of little family, own little community. And then as the movie goes on, and Mark Wahlberg's character gets introduced to cocaine, and everything kind of just slides down. Like it starts in the 70s, and then there's like this New Year's Eve sequence that takes us into 1980 that ends in this very dramatic way with somebody unaliving themselves. And it just this incredible sequence, and everything just starts sliding down. Like in 1980, and Mark Wahlberg is getting more and more addicted to drugs, and the movie just fully changes from kind of this bright, fun movie into this darkness. And then it becomes like Mark Wahlberg and his friends trying to score drugs, which leads to this insane scene with Alfred Molina. And Rick Springfield's song "Jesse's Girl" is playing in the background, and there's this little Asian kid in the background throwing like little fire sparks, like. And it's the most intense speed because it's the most intense scene because Mark Wahlberg and his friends are trying to score a bunch of drugs and like rip this guy off. But Alfred Molina, he's like high out of his mind, and they're trying to sell him fake drugs. You guys, it's the most intense scene ever. And Alfred Molina, he played Doc Ock, Dr. Octopus in the Spider-Man movies. I mean, he's played so many amazing things. But Alfred Molina got so skinny for just this one scene. But it is one of the most intense scenes. And Jesse's Girl, like, I wish I had Jesse's Girl. It's like playing in the background, which is like this fun song. And I don't know, you guys. And that's what it's all about. When like a movie just brings you into it, like 100-fold, where you just feel viscerally, you feel nervous and excited, and the feelings of everybody. You also have great performances from Don Cheadle is amazing in this film. It's just littered with these amazing performances, and I love it so much. It's 2 hours and 37 minutes, I believe, and I don't know. It's just like, it's that theater geek in me too, where every actor just seems to be having the time of their life because they're all doing their own thing. Philip Seymour Hoffman, I've talked about this movie before with you guys, but he's always in the background. Like, talk about an actor that is not in this film given a lot of lines, but he has such a large presence. He's just kind of like this lonely loser that's always like eating a piece of cake and his belly's hanging out. Like like me, I'm always trying to cover my body, or like, I don't want people to see this or see that. It's such bravery to me is that this guy's guts hanging out and he does not care. He's doing it in the service of this character with like about 20 lines in the film, even though he's in a lot of the scenes. And Mark Wahlberg, this is his finest role ever. Because I knew Mark Wahlberg from Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Remember? Like, feel it, feel the vibration. I gotta, come on. A lot of people don't realize that Mark Wahlberg started off as Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. And Mark Wahlberg, obviously brothers with Donnie Wahlberg from NKOTB, New Kids on the Motherfucking Block. I mean, and so Mark Wahlberg started this rap group based off of the success of New Kids on the Block. And I mean, I remember liking that song, but I was like, other than that, whatever. And then Mark Wahlberg started doing these Calvin Klein ads, right? Where it was like, these are me in my underwear. And like Kate Moss was in those ads. Do you remember those ads from the 90s? And then he started like auditioning for roles. And I believe he did a film called Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito, if I'm not mistaken, or is it Rhea? I'm a little hazy on it, but I remember Renaissance Man. He played a small role in that, and then he played a role in The Basketball Diaries with Leonardo DiCaprio, and that was based on this book by he was such a good author. What was his name? Anyways, he played a role in that, and that was a film about drugs as well. Now DiCaprio was supposed to do Boogie Nights. Remember, he was like the hot thing, and I believe this is pre-Titanic or right around that time. And DiCaprio had to back out of Boogie Nights, but he suggested his buddy Mark Wahlberg, who he had just worked with in The Basketball Diaries. And this would be a lead in a film. Could Mark Wahlberg handle this? And, from what we had seen at him, he was okay in these movies, but he wasn't carrying the movies. He was like a supporting character. And I have to tell you, Mark Wahlberg, like, this is one of the best performances. Mark Wahlberg's innocence in the beginning of this film and his climb down into darkness is just so amazing. I've never seen a Mark Wahlberg performance like this one since. And I don't believe Mark Wahlberg really talks about this performance that much. I think he should be insanely proud of it, but I think he kind of steers away from the subject matter of this film now. And he's very, from what I've read, very strict Catholic. But I truly just think it is one of his best movies ever. I mean, he also then went on to be like this gigantic action star and like the Transformers movies and stuff. And I mean, I believe at this point, close to being a billionaire because he has his hands in a lot of other businesses. But this film, man, it is just, to me, those films that just speak to you? And it's not even the subject matter. It's just everything. Paul Thomas Anderson as a director, you were just like, oh my God, this is this guy's second movie. You would read about people like watching Scorsese's films, like Mean Streets, and go, oh my God, or Taxi Driver, which I don't even know if I was born yet when Taxi Driver came out. But I would read things about people coming out of Taxi Driver or Raging Bull and being like, oh God, Martin Scorsese, oh my God, this guy's a visionary. And for me, it felt like what I would imagine it felt like for those people watching a Scorsese film. I was just like, I'm in. Whatever Paul Thomas Anderson wants to do, I'm in. And this guy, because after that he did Magnolia, which is like a three and a half hour epic. And I also loved that movie. Not as much as Boogie Nights, but I loved it. And Magnolia is very masturbatory. It's very self-indulgent. It's very high, like it's very soap opera-y, but done in this magnificent way. And Tom Cruise, another amazing, like he gets amazing performances out of people. And I believe from there, what did he do? Like Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler, right? And then he did There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis. Then I believe he did The Master. The only film that I just truly never loved of his was Inherent Vice with Joaquin Phoenix. But I've pretty much, like even Phantom Thread, I don't love period pieces, but this one worked its magic on me. Like Daniel Day-Lewis and I'm forgetting the actress who played the female lead. It was just so different. Like he does something different every film, even though I wish I could pigeonhole him and make him do films like Boogie Nights over and over and over again. But, as an artist, you just got to let them do what they do. So I'm really excited to see this DiCaprio film. So he's finally able to work with DiCaprio, close to 25 years after Boogie Nights. So yeah, anyways, it's always good to revisit something that you really loved and to see your reaction to it now. If you have a different reaction, does it still excite you? Do you wonder like, oh my God, why did I like that in the first place? So it's always good to watch something and you're like, no, I still flip and love it. I love it. Who thought I would do 15 minutes on Boogie Nights? But here we are, folks. I swear to God, we're going to talk about some Bravo in 1 sec. Okay, let's get into some Bravo, baby. We've got something that we long suspected. Finally, we got news on today, and that is the Summer House spinoff. Now, like we had speculated, there was a little misdirection because it was kind of talked about that Lindsay Hubbard was getting a spinoff. And we talked about it at the time. We were like, well, what does that mean? Like, can Lindsay Hubbard carry an entire show? Is it like a business show with her PR company? Is it a dating show? It can't be her. Like, I mean, what, is her baby involved? Like, is her baby daddy that she's no longer with involved? There were so many questions. But there was also, remember, Summer House last season, I was talking about, I think there's a spinoff with a bunch of them. And once again, we are talking about our friends over at Quince. You guys, I can't stop wearing the breathable navy sports jacket I have. I'm wearing it way too much. I need to go on Quince and get something new because I keep wearing it, but I love it so much. And as cooler temps are rolling in, Quince is where I'm turning for fall staples that actually last. From cashmere to denim to boots, the quality holds up and the price still blows me away. Quince has all kinds of fall staples that you are going to wear nonstop, like super soft 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters starting at just $60. Their denim is durable and it fits right, and their real leather jackets bring that clean, classic edge without the elevated price tag. And what makes Quince different is they partner directly with ethical factories and skip the middlemen, so you get top-tier fabrics and craftsmanship at half the price of similar brands. That sounds really good. So keep it classic and cool this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/sobad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Just go to the website. You're going to find a lot of good stuff. That's QUINCE.com/sobad. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/sobad. Because Amanda Batula had posted something where it looked like there was something being filmed with Lindsay and her baby, I believe. I'm trying to remember the shot. I think it was like a picnic or something, and it wasn't for Summer House. And I was like, that's interesting. Is this a spinoff? So we got word today that it was a spinoff, but it's not a spinoff with just Lindsay Hubbard. It's a spinoff with Lindsay Hubbard, Kyle Cook, Amanda Batula, and Andrea Denver. The Italian stallion is back. Yes, I can't do Andrea's Italian accent, but we will be able to see Andrea Denver's abs once again. It is going to be very, very exciting for all you women and some of you men to see this guy with his shirt off again. And this was the article from People magazine written by Dave Quinn and Stephanie Wenger. Dave Quinn, he's the guy that was involved in the Kiki Monique. The Kiki Monique allegedly told Dave Quinn, and Dave Quinn told Tamra about the Katie Janela Gretchen Rossi thing, huh? This is that moment of the show. If you're listening and you never watched Bravo, you would think I was speaking a foreign language. Okay, this is the article. They followed their lives in the Hamptons. Now it's time to see what goes down in the city. On Wednesday, Bravo officially announced they were in production on a new summer house following the lives of its Manhattanite stars when they're not weekending out east. Filming under the working title In the City, that's the title, In the City, City of Manhattan, keep it rockin'. News of the show was launched in a cryptic Instagram post. It said, City Life activated, the video caption read. A new series is coming soon. The network expanded more about the series in a release. Quote, in the city that never sleeps, a group of New Yorkers navigates the biggest transitions of their lives. Marriage, parenthood, reinvention, and the reality of growing up without growing apart. Oh my God, this almost seems like, And Just Like That, Sarah Jessica Parker's show. Holy shit. It's a spiritual sequel. It said, can they have it all? Or will they need to choose between the lives they've built and the futures they never saw coming? Oh my God, Kyle Cook's going to have to decide. It is rumored, this is the 10th season of Summer House. It's rumored that this is going to be Kyle and Amanda's last season before they fully transition to In the City. Which will be very interesting. I feel very sad for Kyle because he wants to party until he's old and gray, which I believe that he should have the freedom to do that. So casting was kept out of the official press release, but a source tells People Summer House anchors Lindsay, Kyle, and Amanda, and Andrea Denver and his wife, Andrea got married, Lexi Sundin, who we actually saw a couple times on Summer House, are also taking part in the series. Now, this is the big question, and this is what I posted on Instagram. is Carl Radke involved? Because Carl Radke lives in the city and he has Soft Bar that just opened. So he needs the press as much as possible. And I know he sunk a lot of his own personal money into Soft Bar. So my thought was like, I mean, I kind of want Carl in it. And I posted this, and a lot of people didn't want Lindsay in it. A lot of people didn't want Carl in it. But like, listen, I kind of want all of them. And I don't think Lindsay has enough power to block Carl entirely. But I would be curious to see what Carl's life in the city would be. And it would also make sense because Carl still does work for Loverboy in a sense, right? I think it'll be interesting to watch Lindsay and Carl's relationship as the years pass and see if there's any softening, because we had a couple softening moments at the Summer House reunion, right? Now, Hubbard announced on Instagram in June that she planned to continue to be on reality TV after motherhood, but admitted that life is just going to look a little different for me since I'm a whole ass mom now. But she's a whole ass mom with the spinoff. So I got to tell you, I'm really excited. I love that we kind of speculated and predicted this. The only thing that I got wrong entirely was Paige DeSorbo's involvement, because I thought Paige would be doing this spinoff. I truly did. And I thought it was soft launched a little bit in the season finale of Summer House when they picked back up cameras. And Paige was over, I believe, was that at Lindsay's place when they met the baby and they were talking about the breakup of Craig. So I thought, oh my God, this is it. Because it was Paige, Amanda, Sierra, I think, was there as well, and Lindsay. And I thought, this is the show. And also, I was kind of shocked that Sierra was not in this announcement. But maybe this is the way to get the older people of Summer House off Summer House, and Sierra's on that bubble of like, she's still a little bit younger, so she can stay in Summer House proper, and the rest of the people that are nearing 40 or are 40 can go just live in the city, and you don't have to make that drive to the Hamptons. What do you guys think? Will you be watching in the city? I like when I ask people these things, and I'm like, yeah, or even people ask me, I'm like, of course I'm going to watch. You know how many bad TV shows I watch? You know how many bad TV shows that I still want to watch that I haven't been able to watch? Like, of course I'm going to watch this. We should all be watching this. Even if it's bad, it's probably going to be good in some weird way. I mean, sometimes things that are so bad, I mean, hence the name of the show, they can be good. So I am all here for this. I don't know. I mean, the other thing is, how much have they filmed of this already? Like, they might have filmed a good portion of this already, and we just don't know. I mean, other thoughts I had was like, oh, does that mean like maybe they filmed the spinoff, and so like Summer House will air and we'll see their weekends, and then the show will show us that week, but in the city? It'll be like, like you need to watch both of them to kind of get the full week of their experience. I'm thinking too much about Summer House, you guys. Now, speaking of Paige DeSorbo, she recently did an interview in a publication called Birdie, Byrdie, and she was talking a little bit about her decision to leave, and she said she simply had an overwhelming sense that her time on the show had come to an end. Quote, I know I would have been doing a disservice to the show. They accept a certain level of showing up, and I couldn't give them that. Being on reality TV, there's a level of, this is a harsh word, like brainwashing, she explained. That's not real life. You're not stopping people on the street and being like, I just had a thought that I hate my boyfriend. For Paige, the hardest part of leaving the show was getting over the fear that her career would be over. As she explained, there's an element of thinking you need that show and network. And Hannah Berner was reminding me that they're not in charge of where you are in your career. I am assimilating back into society. I'm like, what do people do on a Saturday night in the summer? Can you imagine? Paige, I don't listen to Giggly Squad, and I don't think she talks about Summer House from what people have told me, but I bet I would love to know what her summer was like without Summer House. And I got to imagine it had to have been pretty fucking awesome in some ways, because she could date whoever she wanted. And whatever happened in that relationship or in those dates, she didn't have to talk about on camera, right? And we know that she loves to be a bed bug, so she could just sit in bed and be on her phone, and goofs like me wouldn't have to make any memes about her being a bed bug, right? So I imagine it would be pretty damn nice. Um, about I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. And also, Paige did this. We all talked about this at the right time. Giggly Squad is a really huge podcast, and they got so many opportunities. Like they sold. I've said this so many times. They sold out Radio City Music Hall, one of the best venues out there. They sold it out twice. My buddies Matt and Jessica were in New York on a trip last week, and they saw some band at Radio City Music Hall, and my buddy Matt was like, "This is one of the greatest music venues I've ever been at, man. It is top five, top five." And I'm like, "What are the other four?" And then he's like, it's a good question. The Gorge. I've never been to the Gorge. I've always wanted to. He's like, the Gorge, and it looks beautiful. Have you ever seen a concert at the Gorge or seen pictures of a concert at the Gorge? I was on TikTok watching like Dave Matthews Band. They did like a 3-night run at the Gorge a couple weeks ago, and it just looks gorgeous, like the backdrop. And then he said Red Rocks, Red Rock Amphitheater, and I've never been to Red Rocks either. I've always wanted to see a show at Red Rock. And then I was like, you got to say Hollywood Bowl. And he's like, yeah, Hollywood Bowl, because that's one of my favorite music venues, even though the sound I think could be a little better. It's hard when you're in an open air thing, but he loved Radio City Music Hall, and it's huge, that place. And they sold out 2 nights in a row. Think about it. Some of your favorite bands could not sell out Radio City Music Hall, and Giggly Squad sold it out 2 nights in a row. And then they were getting opportunities on the Vanity Fair Oscars red carpet, and like, so yeah, I think they're okay financially. They're okay. And listen, I can't take it back. I absolutely hated Hannah on that last season of Summer House that she was on. I thought I was just, and I really liked Hannah up to that, and just shows you in reality TV and also in our own personal lives, we change from year to year. Sometimes we have a really tough year, and some of our friends are like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And Hannah, it just felt like I think it was during the COVID season, right? And it was just insane. But what I love about Hannah Berner is that didn't stop her. You know, for a lot of people, you would get a rejection like that, and it would probably end me. And she had the wherewithal and the strength, no matter if you think she's funny or not, to keep going and to not need reality TV. And we always said that, like, that's the best way to be, to not be dependent on the reality show paycheck. That's what we say here all the time, is that I don't want to have to worry about how you make money. And Hannah is a perfect example of somebody that can thrive without reality television. In fact, if Bravo ever offered for her to come back, I think it would be such a mistake for her to accept that. Like, just keep going down the path that you're going. So I thought this was really interesting comments from Paige, but also just saying, yeah, like, I also respect the show enough to say, like, if I'm not really feeling like showing up and like having to talk about the aftermath of Craig and all of that, you know? And so it was the right time. Fully supported. And our final thing about Summer House today is that Jesse Solomon, yes, the man who likes to get his toes sucked, has announced, I think this is his first concert. He is doing a concert in New York City at a place called Baby's All Right on October 28th. He says he has a ton of new songs that he's been working on that he's excited to play for you all. And, you know, his castmates, Amanda Batula says, how do I get a backstage passes? Kyle Cook says, that's my man. Super proud if you. I think he meant super proud of you, but, you know, you're typing on your phone. You're going to misspell things. So I thought that was great. If you live in New York, will you be going to see Jesse Solomon on October 28th, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the premiere of the reboot of Vanderpump Rules. So all you Jesse Solomon fans, if you got 10 toes and an unlimited bank account, I highly recommend you go to Jesse Solomon's concert. And if there's any baddies that go to this concert, can you be my boots on the ground? I need somebody to be my boots on the ground, and maybe I'll try to ask Sophie if she'll go, because she's always had a weird love-hate relationship with Jesse Solomon, but I need to know what this night is like. Okay, now we are moving on to Lala Kent. Now, on Monday, we had talked about that we had heard that Lala was rebranding her podcast. It used to be called Give Them Lala, and now it is called Untraditionally Lala. Not traditionally, untraditionally. So it is revamped, and I think her PR team sent me an email, like a press release email about her first episode, which I think is out now. No, I know it's out now, actually. And it says, wanted to share an exciting update on Lala Kent. She's been busy with new projects, including a complete revamp of her long-running podcast, Give Them Lala. Tomorrow, she officially launches Untraditionally Lala, her brand new podcast, where she's leaning into more mature, purposeful conversations. Wow. By the way, that's so hard. Like purposeful conversations. I'm not even joking. Those are hard. That's hard to keep up. But what does she do? Like one podcast a week? So maybe that's okay. So she wants to have deeper conversations. Her first guest, though, this is interesting. Her first guest is Amber Childers. And Amber Childers is Randall Emmett's ex that he had kids with, and that Lala broke up that relationship. Whoa. And they're going to make their first podcast appearance together. We know they're buddies in the last couple of years, and, you know, I think they're in full support of each other. It says, in this candid conversation, they reflect on their past and the unlikely friendship they've built, having both been previously connected to the same ex. And so, yeah, it's out now. And this is the other thing. She moved podcast companies. She's now with iHeart, under their Pop banner, which I believe is the same banner that Two T's in the Pod is on, and a lot of Bravo Celebrities podcasts. So she has moved her podcast to iHeart. And it seems like they put a lot of money into this because it's like completely rebranded in terms of the cover art. And I saw her with like Teresa and Gia. So I don't know if that's an upcoming episode or maybe that was a previous episode, but I wrote back to the publicist. I just said, yeah, I'm going to mention this. And I said, are they covering the pod rebrand on the Valley? And she wrote back, I have no idea if the rebrand will have a Valley moment. I think, listen, I think I was lied to right there. I think I'm sorry, if you think in terms of production or being a producer, if this is happening in Lala's life, it is not a coincidence that it's happening as the Valley is filming. I could eat my words. I'll eat a couple shoes if I am wrong. But my prediction is you will see some of this rebrand as a storyline. But wasn't her storyline on, what season of it was it? Was about like rebranding the Lala whole thing, and she had that conversation with Lisa Vanderpump at her office. Remember when she used to work with Jessica? I seem to remember that scene, and she was like, I want to give him the softer side of Lala. So maybe that rebrand didn't happen at that time, but now it's happening now. But my prediction is you are going to see this on the Valley. Like I said, I have no factual proof, but if I was a producer or if you just watch these shows, it's just, if something is happening during the time of filming and you're seeing this person on the cast, of course you would cover this on the show, right? Now, what was talked about on this podcast? Let's go to our friends at Vanderpod Recaps, one of my favorite Instagram accounts, full of great information, and they do the hard work. They listen to all of these podcasts so we don't have to. So give Vanderpod Recaps a follow. They do a lot of good work. So Lala's talking with Amber about their relationship and say, fill the audience in on it, right? And Amber says, sometimes I see the relationship that our children have, and it's the most beautiful, unexpected, untraditional way. But if there's anything that I wanted to teach my girls out of my experience that I had with you was the power of forgiveness, and it's not easy. And like, you can forgive a million times over every single day, but I am so grateful that I just like literally was like, if I don't forgive and learn how to forgive because you remember, she goes, because you remember, I grew up in a Mormon church, like forgiveness was like, that's the first thing you go to. But true forgiveness, it's for yourself. It's not for the other person. And when someone explained it to me that way, I was like, oh yeah, because I don't want to keep suffering. And I suffered for a long time. It was like that scratch that wouldn't heal. And then you would just like pick at it and then start bleeding again. I think those, like, so Amber, like that blows me away. That's very deep about forgiveness, right? And she's like, and I was like, you get to a point where you're just like, no more, I'm done. And you have to have that gift of desperation where you're just like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I think we all have that, right? Where you are just eaten alive by something that has been done to you or that you've done, right? And Lala says, I do this thing where, and I don't do it often, but there are certain times in my life that there's two that I can pinpoint. It's when it has to do with the passing of my dad and my sobriety, where I will go back and watch old seasons of Vanderpump Rules. It's a great show to watch, by the way, to watch past seasons of. And I watched season 7, the beginning, a lot to kind of remind myself where I was at when my dad passed away and how dark that place was. And it sounds like I'm some emotional masochist, but it's really just to remind myself how far we've come and how different things are. But I was watching, and I know you don't watch Vanderpump, but I was watching season 6, and it was the first season where I wasn't hiding my relationship, and I wanted to punch my own self in the face. Because remember, she hid the relationship with Randall. She had broken up this relationship with Amber and Randall. I mean, obviously, Randall is the main person to blame in this, but Lala played a part in it. Lala says, I truly cannot imagine what it was like for you to watch that person, me, at the time and go, this is the person who came in. I don't know if I'm using the right word, destroyed my family, the person that's potentially going to be around my children. I would have lost my mind. Yeah, imagine if that had happened to Lala. I mean, in some ways, it kind of did happen to Lala because Randall did the same, I mean, not the same exact thing, but a very similar thing. And Lala would have, really gave them Lala. But this, I mean, already this does seem like a more purposeful conversation. She asks, am I allowed to ask what your mindset was when, if you'd seen clips, or like, what was your headspace about her? And Amber says, my initial reaction for everything in life is I go numb. As I've gotten older, my hormones have changed a little bit. Pre-menopause or perimenopause. I see red sometimes, but then other times where I just want to numb the fuck out because the feelings are just too big for me to manage. So I think during that time, I didn't know how to cope. So for me, it was just like, go in and you just want to die. You just want to die, but I didn't. And Lala goes, no, I didn't die. And Lala goes, you didn't die. And then they both laugh. And Lala goes, you wanted to, but you didn't. Those are very, very different things. Lala says, once I got sober, I feel like you and I were able, it wasn't always roses. We had our outs. And Amber's like, yeah, we did. And Lala's like, yeah, there were times where we would be on the phone. Amber, I'd be like, this girl should be on reality TV. She shouldn't be an actress. And Amber's like, oh, you're talking about me? And Lala's like, yeah, you bitch goes toes. So Lala's still Lala, bitch goes toes. Amber goes, because I was being dramatic. And Lala goes, no, the two of us screaming bitch at each other on the phone. And Lala goes, do you remember we'd be on the phone and I'd be like, fuck you, bitch. It was wild. But Lala goes, but now I'm a mom. And by the way, Amber goes, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Girls can be so mean. Lala says, here's the thing though, Amber, no matter what the reasoning of how it happened, let me tell you, had I been sober and where I am now and the woman I am now, it would have never happened. But I have to trust that the universe had a plan for me. My path, your path, was written in the stars well before we even got here. And we were equipped with all the tools to manage the heartbreak, the trauma, all of the things. And even if that's not true, I have to tell myself that was the plan. If I don't tell myself that, I will go crazy. I will beat myself up until I can't get out of bed. So going back and looking at how it happened, had I been in my right frame of mind, I would have been able to say the math ain't mathing here. Amber says, but that's the point of life. We are in the school of life. If you're not evolving, why are you on this earth? And it doesn't matter what age you are meant to go on this path. I'm meant to go on this path. And it just so happened that our paths fetched and crossed. And then here we are today. So we're okay. And Lala goes, we're great. And I love having you in my life. I feel like you're a sister to me. We're forever going to be family because of our kids. And I think, it's very normal. You hear about people who get divorced and then like new partners come in and they can all go to dinner. It's very rare. You hear a situation where there was a cheating scandal that happened and the wife forgives. And I'm going to put in quotes because I still refuse to call myself a mistress. You refuse to call yourself the mistress at that point? Am I a mistress? And Amber says, I don't know. And Lala goes, she's like, yes, bitch, you are. Yeah, I mean, listen, it sucks, but she was the mistress because Randall was still with Amber when they got together. Yeah, but that's what we were just talking about with Paige, right? Is that Lala kept that so... See, remember the Randall NDA stuff where he made people sign NDAs so they could go to the Coachella house? I think it was like Tom and Oriel. It was a bunch of them, if I'm not mistaken. And Lala really refused to talk about this on camera. She flat out lied and she protected. And that's kind of what Paige was saying, is that you want people that can bring themselves to it. And if you can't bring yourself to it, and that's why I think the frustration sometimes with Lala as a reality show character, it's a hard road as a fan of hers because there are so many things you realize she had hid. and not been honest about, but then she was, jamming her finger down people's throats when she felt like they weren't giving, like they were affecting her paycheck. And I think sometimes the audience was frustrated about that. I was certainly frustrated about that in terms of how she treated Ariana, is that, well, why does Ariana have to forgive Tom? Because you wouldn't have forgave in that situation back in the day, right? Amber says the turning point for her was when you called me one day, when your name, I had you under Lala, by the way, it wasn't anything other than that. And I answered and you're like, can you talk? And I said, okay, sure. And you literally just made amends to me. And I never thought that day would come. And it's everything that I needed in my healing. And that allowed me to have the closure I needed between you and I, because I know you're not a bad person. You weren't a bad person. Maybe you made bad choices, but fuck it. I make bad choices all the time. So I wonder if this was part of Lala's sobriety, of the making amends part of that. Amber says, I know our story and I know the details of it. And it's like, maybe this is from like, being brought up with a religious background. If you ask my youngest daughter, she'd be like, well, you're a Cancer, so you're just too sensitive. I never wanted people to be mean to you, like, because that doesn't help the healing at all. I imagine putting myself in your shoes, how I would feel about myself if I did that. You're beating yourself up enough. Now, knowing you, I know what you were experiencing. I didn't want that for you. And you had Ocean. Your job was to show up and be the best mom and show up for your own mom, who was going through her own grief, and Easton, who is her brother. I don't know what it is. I needed the phone call for myself and for my girls to move past. And I think I do get very protective of the people I love, and I do love you. And then Lala's like, I love you too. You're my sister wife. Okay. Okay. Cody Brown is calling Lala right now. Because people cannot make sense of it. And I'm like, this is just our very untraditional little family that we have created. So that sounds like a very purposeful conversation. That sounds like a good way to kick off a rebrand. Now, will she be able to keep that up? Will she be making amends to Ariana at some point? And, we do soften over time. But I am curious, if this is truly who Lala is, and she is on the Valley, I hope she brings that to the Valley. And I hope she doesn't try to do things for the camera because she feels like she needs to for the paycheck. Because sometimes the softer side of somebody does not make for great reality television. Somebody that's trying to listen and understand and trying to figure out how everybody feels is not the most dynamic television. But I mean, it's worth giving it a shot, right? So anyways, what do you guys think about this? I thought that was kind of interesting because, I mean, you just think about it. I mean, Lala did break up that marriage, who they had kids, and that's a big thing. So yeah, that's give them Lala. No, untraditionally, Lala. Yeah. Oh, also, I recorded an episode of this great podcast, Reality Court, today with Anna Kinkosis from, she was on The Real Housewives of Miami, the initial iteration of that. And now she hosts this podcast called Reality Court with Ace Fanning, who's an excellent podcaster. And he is on maternity leave with his wife because they just had a beautiful baby. And so she had a bunch of fill-in hosts, and I got to be one of those. And we talked about tonight's episode of Miami, which I got to see. And next week is the season finale of Real Housewives of Miami. They released the reunion looks today. I basically wear basketball shorts and dirty. By the way, I'm wearing my Send It to Daryl sweatshirt that a listener gave me, which thank you so much to this listener. And it's white. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's white. And so I can't be trusted with anything white. There's already like dirty stains. Dirt just attracts to me. But I got to co-host this with her today. I think it's out on Friday. So go check it out. I hope I did okay for her and for the show. And I think Ace will be back soon. That guy's great. And she's great. So we had a lot of fun. And it was great hearing her opinions of these women because she knows a lot of them. And I got to ask her about my theory of Teresa, if Teresa would ever consider moving from Jersey to Miami. And she had a lot of, it felt like she gave me a lot of information about that. So I don't want to spoil it, but go listen to that. Hey, let's switch to music. Let's downshift, you guys. You guys know I love my music. I think you guys love music as well. And I was privileged enough through my years to have gone to like 13 Coachella Music Festival. which I just had a blast at every year, except for at the end. My knees started to. my, it's a lot. It's a lot to party for 3 days in the desert. But they usually announce their lineup for the next festival. And this year, the dates are April 10th through 12th and then April 17th through 19th. I used to go when it was just one weekend, and then they switched it to 2 weekends, and it would be the same lineup for the most part every weekend, each of those weekends. But they would usually announce the lineup in January. And I remember that because I would be on the message boards and be like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? And it would come out and you'd look at all the bands, you discover new bands, and and it was all this, like, you do so much prep work about like what band you're going to see when and which day. And it would lead up to that April festival. And then this week, Coachella did something for the first time in its history. They released the lineup. And I was like, oh, cool. Oh, man, I can't believe it's January already. And then I looked at my calendar, and we're only in September right now. I mean, if I had not looked, I would have just accepted it was January and moved on, but it was September. And so they released this lineup in September, which is insane. And if you guys, you might not, probably care about that. But for somebody that's an avid goer, and I always pay attention to these things, it was just shocking. And a lot of people are saying just because the economy's in a little bit of a weird spot and not everybody is having, tons of unlimited money right now, unless you invested in Bitcoin. So they were saying that they announced now potentially, so they would be like first on people's list to spend their money. And they've got a lot of payment plans. I believe they use Klarna now. And you can put a little away each month to go to this music festival. So tickets go on sale this Friday. And also they're the first big music festival, so they can get your dollars before any of the other music festivals start announcing. And there was a lot of rumors about who were going to be the headliners this year. And we're going to go through this a little bit, and I'll tell you who I'm excited about and why I think this is kind of interesting in some ways. Now, Friday, we got Sabrina Carpenter headlining. Sabrina Carpenter was at, I believe, last year's Coachella Music Festival. She was not headlining. And at the end of her set, she said, I'll see you guys next time when I headline Coachella. And now she is headlining Coachella. She just has a new album that just got released a couple weeks ago. So this is one for the kids. I like Sabrina Carpenter. Everybody seems to dig her. Not my favorite musical act in the world, but it's a big name. And then Saturday, the headliner is, get this, you guys, Justin Bieber, the Biebs. And Justin Bieber is rumored to take home the biggest Coachella Music Festival paycheck in their history for this. He is getting mid 7 figures for this. Some people speculated around $7 million for performing 2 shows. Not 2 shows each weekend, 1 show one weekend, 1 show the next. Now, the thing is, though, with Justin Bieber, he just released Swag and Swag 2, but he does, I think mentally he struggles a lot. I think he's open about those things, and a lot of people are going, will he show up? Will he be able to pull through and pull this together? And remember, I believe Justin Bieber is manager-less right now. He doesn't have a manager. He negotiated this himself, from what I read. And there was a musical artist a couple of years ago, Frank Ocean, who I love. Frank Ocean came out, and he was like the Sunday night headliner. And he's a little reclusive, very artist, does beautiful music. But I was watching on the live feed because I do Couchella now, because YouTube plays pretty much every act at Coachella. So you can just sit there and like watch it on your couch. And I've done that for the last 2 years. And it's been pretty enjoyable. And my knees don't hurt nearly as much as being there. But Frank Ocean came out there and it was just a mess. He started late. He was like hiding from the cameras. And then eventually he just stopped. I forgot how many minutes he did. It was not very long at all. It was just a mess. And they didn't have him play the second weekend. He just was that first weekend. So some people are already saying, is Justin Bieber going to pull a Frank Ocean? I mean, listen, Justin Bieber has been performing since he was a kid. And he's also popped up at Coachella many times. I think he is going to pull this out. Maybe I'm in the minority thinking this, but I think that's going to be an interesting act. And a lot of my friends were like, Justin Bieber. But Justin Bieber, I don't think people realize, he's got a real interesting musical pedigree. And I think he's going to put on a very interesting performance. I'm really excited about that one. And then the Sunday headliner is Karol G. And a lot of people don't realize who Carol G is, but she is a stadium act, you guys. She is one of the biggest acts, like of all of those people. Carol G might be the biggest. She is the first Latina artist to headline Coachella. She's a Colombian superstar already. So overseas, she is massive. I am not super familiar with her work, but I think this is an interesting choice. And it brings in just like, that's what Coachella is. It's just like this blend of every type of music that you can imagine. And you will get turned on to shit that you have never heard in your life and walk away being a lifelong fan of artists like that. I mean, I've seen so many artists over the years where I had no clue what I was walking into and I'd be blown away at the end. So those are your headliners. But then the undercard, there's some really interesting stuff. And last year I thought it was kind of a mess of a lineup. But this year, there's a lot of nods to sad bastard music that I like, a little alternative music, some throwbacks that I really dig. There's some great EDM artists in here. And Friday we have the band The XX, which have not put out an album in like 8 years. The XX, it's like XX is a trio, and I love this band so much. They haven't put out an album in like 8 years. I saw them at Coachella there, I guess about 8 years ago, and it was amazing. It's just they have beautiful music, so they are coming back. It's like their first performance back. And then we have a band called 9 Inch Noise, Noize. And a lot of people are wondering, what is 9 Inch Noise? I know exactly what it is. So 9 Inch Nails, led by Trent Reznor, I think a lot of us love 9 Inch Nails, on their current world tour right now, there's a segment of the show where he goes and performs with this EDM act, Boys Noise, Boyznoize. And they go out and like, you can look at clips online, YouTube, TikTok, and all that stuff. And they just make amazing music together. So they are actually performing a set as 9 Inch Noise. So I think that's going to be fantastic. So I would imagine it's going to be a lot of the more upbeat 9 Inch Nails stuff, but who knows? Then we have EDM act Disclosure, which I've loved. They've been around for a long time. Turnstile, which is a great rock alternative band. Ethel Cain, who's big. Dijon, who did production work on Justin Bieber's Swag album and just released an album a couple of weeks ago. He's great. Teddy Swims. And then for K-pop fans, Cat's Eye, you might know them from their recent Gap commercial. They're there. I wish I could get into K-pop because everybody that loves K-pop seems like they're having a blast. It just doesn't hit my ears the way that it hits fans of K-pop. I wish I could like K-pop more. And then, this is a great throwback, man. Devo. We have Devo. Whip it good. Da-na-na-na-na-na. We have rapper Sexy Red, rapper Central C, and then we have a throwback alternative band, Foster the People. We have Blood Orange. I love that dude. Moby. Come on, Moby. If you were not in the early aughts and didn't have his CD play, what were you even doing during that time? Come on, Moby. Great. Likey Lee, Joyce Manor, Groove Armada. They haven't played over here in the States in a long time. So many bands. That's just Friday. And then I'm probably missing some ones to talk about. Then Saturday, like I said, Justin Bieber. Then you have one of the best rock bands ever, The Strokes. The Strokes, I've seen them so many times live. They always just rip it. I love them. We have Addison Rae. Addison Rae just has, she has the song that a lot of people know right now, Diet Pepsi. She released her first album a couple months ago, and she's really high up on the lineup. I don't know if she deserves to be this high up on the lineup, you guys, but the kids dig her, and it'll probably be fun to watch her. And then we have David Byrne, the lead singer of Talking Heads, who's had a great solo career. He's going to be playing. We have alternative act Interpol. We have Pink Pantheress, big on TikTok she is. Geese, which is a great newer rock band or alternative band. And then on Sunday, we have Young Thug, rapper Young Thug. We have EDM artist Cascade. We have another K-pop group, Big Bang. We have Laufey. Oh, Laufey has the most beautiful voice. She's Icelandic, I believe. And she does these kind of like old throwback songs. I mean, it's just very pure, her instrument. Highly recommend Laufey. We have Major Lazer, and that Diplo, the DJ, is a part of Major Lazer. We have Iggy Pop. We have punk legend Iggy Pop. Come on. We have rock band Wet Leg, who I love. We have rap duo Clips, who I also love. So there is so many good things on this. And then we have a big EDM act. I don't know how to say their name. Anyma, Anima. And they have like real, I think there's like 3D. It's like the EDM there is crazy. It's like the biggest technology ever in some of their tents, the Sahara tent. And then at the very bottom, in really tiny print, you guys, it says the bunker debut of Radiohead. And then it says Kid A Amnesia. And Kid A, those were two separate albums. There is an album that puts both of them together, a re-release that got released a couple of years ago by the amazing band Radiohead, but it's in really small lettering at the end. So a lot of people are going, what is the bunker debut of? Is this like kind of an art piece? Is Radiohead playing Coachella? Because they've headlined it, I believe, 3 times in all of the years. I was there one year for one of their headlining years. But a lot of people are speculating, is this like an art project and they're not playing, or are they playing? And Coachella hasn't actually said what this is yet. But my God, this is the kind of lineup where I'm like, God, I wish my knees worked better because I would love to be here. I'm not going to be able to be there for many reasons, but if Radiohead was there, oh God, I love their music so much. So that is the year in Coachella. Will you be going? And also, was that just, once again, listening to me talk like a foreign language? You're like, I don't know any of those bands like my dad does. Okay, a couple more things. Let's see here. Okay, this is the summer I Turned Pretty, right? Sophie loves this show. She was talking about it on Monday. I still have not watched it. I'm going to watch it. I just know when I start watching it, I'm probably going to love it. And it's like a teen drama soap thing. And I'm probably going to get really involved. And then I'm going to feel creepy because I'm an old man watching like a teen show. But I already know I'm probably going to dig it. So Sophie was explaining that they were having their series finale this week. It was only 3 seasons. Jenny Han, the creator, it was only going to be 3 seasons. And I was like, oh, wow. But then I guess there's big news today because the summer I Turned Pretty, the story is not over yet. Amazon Prime Video has officially greenlit a feature film that will conclude the story of the hit YA series. YA means young adult. I hope they change that to OA so I can watch it, old adult. Details are kept under wraps aside from the fact that it will continue the story of the series, which just aired the finale for its 3rd and final season. The movie's going to be written by Jenny Han, who wrote the books on which the show is based. The announcement was made at the series finale red carpet celebration in Paris, France. And Jenny said, there's another big milestone left in Belly's journey. There's a character named Belly? She says, and I thought only a movie could give its proper due. I'm so grateful to Prime Video for continuing to support my vision for the story and for making it possible to share this final chapter with the fans. Now, before you're like, oh, that's really nice of this corporation, Amazon Prime, to do this, let's pay attention to the statistics of this. According to Amazon, season 3 debut, just the debut, the season premiere drew 25 million viewers globally within 7 days of its launch. 25 million viewers. That's insane. So yeah, this sounds like a no-brainer that of course they want to continue this story and let them make a movie of this. This is the log line of the show description. Now, you guys that watch it already know this, but I'm reading this for the first time. It is a multi-generational drama that hinges on a love triangle between one girl and 2 brothers. Oh my God. Uh-oh, Lala, you should interview these guys on your podcast. The ever-evolving relationship between mothers and their children and the enduring power of strong female friendship. It is a coming-of-age story about first love, first heartbreak, and the magic of that one perfect summer. Wow. Yeah, I'll probably really dig that. So I'm going to check that out. And here's a story that's really kind of very, very weird. You know those Ray-Ban, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses that Mark Zuckerberg and Meta and all that, they have those, you know, that you can film with your glasses or take photos or stuff. Well, today, Mark Zuckerberg did a big presentation and they unveiled these new Meta Ray-Ban display glasses. And this is going to be really crazy because it's the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, but now it's going to contain a small digital display that you will be able to see in one of the lenses. and you're going to wear a neural wristband that will be able through hand gestures control what you see on one of the frames. Like, think about that. So some of the things it has, it's AI enabled, and it will be able to transcribe conversations that you are having in the moment. You know, as you get older, like I've turned to watching TV with, the closed captioning on. It will close caption your conversations as you're having them. I don't even know why I would need that. I'm sure there's a reason. Yeah, okay. So it's going to cost $800, and it's going to go on sale. When does it go on sale? I'm trying to find. Yeah, the digital display. It's controlled through hand gestures, and I'm trying to can you watch TV on there? There's a lot of questions I have about this. They're going to set up pop-ups where you'll be able to try these on and see how they work. But they're saying, Zuckerberg says, people can do tasks like watch videos through the display or see and respond to text messages. The display doesn't block a person's view, and it disappears when not being used. Oh, man, if I only trusted Mark Zuckerberg. But then during the demo, Zuckerberg repeatedly attempted to call Meta tech chief Andrew Bosworth, and it was unsuccessful. And Zuckerberg was like, this is, it happens. It happens. So I don't know if anybody should rush out to get this first. I'm really curious how this works. And it says you can watch videos, but what kind of videos? Is it like a certain app, or can I put my DirecTV on there? If I can put my DirecTV on, it's game over, baby. I would get that in a heartbeat. I mean, but that's also going to be dangerous, because what if you're driving? I know I would be tempted to watch it while I drive. And that's no bueno. And finally today, I wanted to speak briefly, very briefly, about the Jimmy Kimmel of it all. So if you don't want to hear that, I did a whole episode. You can turn it off right now. So Jimmy Kimmel was released, not fired. I mean, I think it looks like it's going to go that way, but was released from his duties. From his show on ABC. Disney owns ABC, the whole rigmarole. And this was in, I guess, reaction to a clip from this past week where in his monologue, I believe, I have it, I could play it for you guys, but he was talking about, obviously, Charlie Kirk, which on this podcast last week, I want to make it very clear. I don't support political violence. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't believe in violence. And I know some people were very angry about my comments last week, but I just don't, I don't believe he deserved to lose his life. And I think so many people saw that shocking footage and just realized how horrific that was. I also said I didn't know a lot about Charlie Kirk, and I spent a lot of this past week watching. I went down a real rabbit hole that I have talked nothing about on the podcast, because how boring, not boring, it's just, this isn't a political podcast. And I don't want it to ever become a political podcast. I want to be able to talk about these things I love. I love that I have this freedom of speech to bore you guys to tears talking about Bravo and all of this. But my thing was, my troubling with what happened, I was troubled about what happened today, because to me, that is a freedom of speech issue. It for me, it does not... whether what he said was funny, because he, in his monologue that this all started with, this wasn't about celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. I believe what was upsetting was he was saying MAGA are trying to convince people that this kid is left leaning, right? And that that MAGA was trying to convince people that he was left leaning. And there's been a lot of confusion from the beginning, because this kid's grandma said, yeah, the family's MAGA, da, 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 da. I mean, we've gotten so many different news reports through this past week. And yesterday they released text exchanges. Listen, this kid was a troubled mess. I mean, I don't think anybody can disagree with that. If you get to the point where you're doing that, I mean, obviously that's insane. But from the monologue that I listened to, there was nothing in regards to Charlie Kirk. But he did play a clip of Trump. He said, well, of course, Trump's taking it pretty hard. And it was that thing he was being questioned on the White House lawn, where one of the reporters said, hey, how are you holding up with the Charlie Kirk news? And he goes, I think pretty good. And then he went immediately into right over there, they're starting construction on the Grand Ballroom, and it was that kind of Trump thing where he could have been like, oh, I'm taking this really hard and oh my gosh, but he immediately started talking about the construction of this beautiful ballroom. And so it was, when I watched it, that was the joke. It wasn't anything to do with degrading the memory of Charlie Kirk, in my opinion. And then our FCC chairman, FCC is the Federal Communications Commission. It is a government agency. So Brendan Carr is our current head of the Federal Communications Commission, and he was on a podcast recently where he was putting pressure on ABC in regards to Jimmy Kimmel. Now, you always got to follow the money with these things, right? So it's much bigger than just Disney or a network. Nexstar Media owns, and this is where it gets kind of boring. So even my initial point of just wanting free speech, you have to kind of follow the money, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, is that Nexstar Media owns a lot of TV stations and has a pending multi-billion-dollar deal with his other company, Tenga, to acquire even more TV stations. Now, there are laws in regards to how many TV stations and affiliate stations you can have in this country, because nobody wants, you just can't have, it's supposed to be fair, right? You can't have it leaning one side or the other completely. So this deal that they are trying to put together would put them over the legal limit of TV stations that they can own. So Nexstar needs a waiver from the Federal Communications Commission. Sinclair, another company, it's a conservative company, also owns a lot of TV stations. Now, both of these companies, Nexstar and Sinclair, said that they will suspend Kimmel's show indefinitely. So, which they're in kind of cahoots with the Federal Communications Commission, and they were able to force ABC's hand. And this all went down today. And it looks like they're going to get their way. Now, this guy, Brendan Carr, he tweeted this in 2019, before he was head of the FCC. He wrote, should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the, quote, public interest. So my whole point, I put out a fucking stupid meme where I put Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, and I said, hey, Andy Cohen, why don't you let these guys host Watch What Happens Live for a minute? I didn't think anything of it. This is a freedom of speech issue for me. And it really caused an uproar on my Instagram page. And I don't want to make light of that. I take these things very seriously. And my thing is, no matter what side you're on, my thing was like, I want to listen. I had a couple really great conversations over DMs with some of the people, kind of walking through this. And I really appreciated the conversation. But a lot of the people, they don't want to have conversations right now because they're angry. And I would imagine rightfully so, if this guy, Charlie Kirk, who they love, was assassinated, that's going to produce a lot of anger. I'm really trying to understand. So a lot of people are just like, I'm going to unfollow you, blah, blah, blah. Where I drew a line for myself personally, and I do also want to make the distinction between freedom of speech and harassment. A couple of people mentioned my mom and that my mom would be disappointed in me. Listen, you're probably right. Once again, have you seen the way I dress? There are so many things she would be disappointed at me about. I need to go to the dentist more often. So many things. Unfortunately, this probably wouldn't be one of them. But that draws a line for me where it's not freedom of speech at that point. It is harassment, and I will block you. That's not something I would ever do to anybody. Anybody. So that's a personal thing. To me, that's different than freedom of speech. But the government, my whole point is, no matter if it is Joe Biden, fucking Bill Clinton, George Bush, or Donald Trump, they should not have our hands in our government because of our beautiful amendments, right? Freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. That is on this it's a beautiful amendment. And then I believe the second one is the right to bear arms, which we still fight about. But some people were making the point of, well, if you upset your boss, ABC, then I'm sorry, they have the right to fire you. I agree with you. Yes, 100%. But then if we find out that it is government interference or they are putting pressure on ABC and Disney, that is, then we get into a freedom of speech issue. And it's really simple for me in that way. I was also, because I did go down this really deep rabbit hole this week. I've been listening to like Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and a lot of right-wing political commentators and podcasters. And a lot of the things I disagree with, some of the things, I mean, Candace Owens thinks this whole thing is a setup, some of it, that there's some deeper mystery behind the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I mean, she really seems to be unleashing because Charlie Kirk was her friend and seems to think that there is a setup involved some way. But I don't want to get into any of that. Go listen to her if you want more of that. So it's like been hard to try to make heads or tails of this. And you don't want people to politicize this, to push through things like this. It's that simple for me. Like I watched that Fox News show with Brian Kilmeade last week, where he said that he suggested that the homeless should be euthanized. And he did apologize for that statement, I think a day later, because that was an outrageous statement. I mean, truly, whatever you think of the homeless, to even suggest euthanizing. And that's not even a comedy show. That's like a news program. That's like news. But I wasn't calling for Brian Kilmeade, nor would I think the government would step in to like, you have to fire him. That's the freedom of speech, you know, like sometimes it works in your favor and sometimes you get really offended by it. And I'm really trying to understand. I want to understand. But my thing was, there's such anger that there's no conversation being had. And people just want to hear one thing. And that's where it gets a little frustrating for me, because I'm like, hey, we are all in this together. That's like my whole point. And both sides, we have such anger for each other right now. And, you know, I had a great conversation with one lady who was like, I just don't like when you talk politics on my podcast. Like, me either. My God. Like, this is not what I want to. I want to spend more time talking about Lala. Come on. She just rebranded her podcast. I mean, we're on this earth for a short amount of time. I want to try to be able to understand each other. You know, like, I mean, we live in what is the best country in the world because of things like this Declaration of Independence and this Bill of Rights. Like, this is so amazing, but we've spent so much time just hating each other. And so that like, I'm not even the world's biggest Jimmy Kimmel fan, but I thought it was ridiculous. And I was really, you know, listen, I'm different from a lot of people. I think some people want to purposely upset you because it kind of drives clicks and downloads and it gets people upset and talking. I don't want to do that, man. There's so much great stuff that we can be talking about. But I think that really is through freedom of speech. But like I said, freedom of speech, there is so much good and bad about that, but I don't think we should limit it. And I don't think the government should have any hand in our freedom of speech. And, you know, just put yourself in a Democratic, you know, presidential 4 years. You would not want a Democrat canceling, you know, Fox News or any of your favorite comedians or podcasters. You know, the fact that I get to get in here and yap about this, you know, and so people are like, oh, you know, I'm so bummed you're on Jeff Lewis and all that. I'm like, Jeff doesn't talk about politics. Yeah, he doesn't. Jeff's magic. I think that dude's a genius, and I've learned so much from him. But we have very different shows. And I've always said, it's just really frustrating. And I really hate upsetting people. But it's like we talk about with Housewives. You want a conflict, but then you want resolution. And right now, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of resolution or that we're willing to kind of even have the tough conversations. We're just all having these solo conversations, or you're having conversations with your political, preference. And we're not kind of reaching out because at the end of the day, we're all Americans, right? I don't know. You'll be upset about this, I'm sure, as well. But I wanted you to know I take it seriously. And I do try to understand both sides. And I screw up all the time. I mean, yeah, my mom would be very disappointed in me. But that kind of name calling or shit like that, like that's, I mean, aren't you curious? I don't know. Anyways, that's the show today, you guys. I appreciate you being here. I hope you didn't stay if this was something you didn't want to hear, because that is your freedom to turn things off, all of that stuff. And I don't say that like LOL, like I mean that for real. How many times have I told you if something, this show or another show you don't like, that's the great power of this freedom that we have, is that you can turn it off and you can find something or someone that's going to agree completely with you. I sometimes will listen to things that I don't agree with completely, but I still really believe in the person. So I just hope that at some point we realize we got to start listening to each other and start ignoring, it's like the people we should be mad about is corporations, is crooked politicians on the left and the right, and anybody that is trying to tear us apart and make us scared of each other. So you did not need to hear any of that, but I wanted to get it out, and I hope some of that made sense. And anyways, I'll see you Friday. No Politics Friday. We got OC. It's going to be a blast. Have a good Thursday. Bye.